Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're tackling a subject that we know hits close to home for a lot of you out there, special needs housing options, specifically for adults. We got our hands on this really interesting article by Robert Flowers. It's on Medium, and let me tell you, it is packed with info. Everything from the different types of housing available to, that dreaded financial side of things.
Yeah, that can definitely be a bit of a maze to navigate, which is exactly why I'm excited to break it all down with you today. The article is a great foundation, but we're here to sift through it all and really highlight those golden nuggets of information for you.
Exactly. And, one of the first things that jumped out at me, and I'm curious if you felt the same way, is how much the article emphasizes that special needs housing is not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It's easy to fall into that trap of thinking, oh, there's this one type of housing and that's that. But the reality is so much more, well, nuanced, right?
Absolutely. It's like trying to fit everyone into those shoes, the ones that are supposedly one size fits all. Utterly impossible. What this article does so well is highlight the spectrum of options out there, because each one is really designed with those very specific needs in mind.
And that's such a good point because it brings us to that phrase, levels of care. It feels like the perfect place to start.
Yeah.
Imagine someone listening who's thinking, okay, my mom, she needs a little extra help these days, but where do I even start looking? What are my options even?
Oh, I can't tell you how common that scenario is. And luckily, this article breaks it down in a way that's easy to digest. It covers everything from independent living, which is great for those who don't need a ton of assistance, all the way to nursing homes, where, of course, that extensive care is the priority. And then in between, you've got assisted living, continuing care, retirement communities. It's a whole buffet of options, each catering to a very specific situation.
Like a choose your own adventure, but for finding the perfect housing solution. But on a serious note, this whole thing about assessing an individual's needs, where do you even begin with that?
Honesty is key. Being really upfront about what the individual can and, more importantly, what they can't manage on their own. Can they handle their medications? Do they need help with things like getting dressed, bathing, those everyday things? Those answers are like puzzle pieces, and as they start to fit together, they really point you towards the right path, the right type of housing.
It's like taking inventory, right? Seeing where someone's at this point in time. And of course, knowing that things might change down the line, which is probably why having that strong support network is so important. Because let's face it, getting bombarded with all this info, it could feel overwhelming.
Oh, 100%. You hit the nail on the head. And that's where this article really shines, because it highlights some really incredible organizations that are there to guide you. We're talking aging and disability resource centers, centers for independent living, area agencies on aging. These aren't just names on a page. They're like your potential lifelines in all of this.
I love how you put that lifelines. It's like having that map and compass when you're venturing into uncharted territory. Still an adventure, for sure, but at least you've got a sense of direction. You know what, though? I am itching to get into the specifics of these different housing types. Let's move beyond the broad strokes here and really paint a picture for our listeners, yeah.
You read my mind. Let's dive in.
Okay, so we are diving headfirst into the world of special needs housing options, and the first one that really caught my eye in this article, it's adult foster homes. And I'll be honest, before reading this, my mental image was very, I don't know, clinical, maybe. But the way the article describes it, it just sounds so much warmer, so much more inviting.
It really does. It gives you that feeling of a real family environment, which, is so important for folks who might be moving out of a situation where they were living alone or, just need a little extra support throughout the day.
It really is. And it's more than just saying, oh, it's like a family.
Yeah.
They actually get into the nitty-gritty, the details. Like, did you know that these homes, they usually only house up to 6 residents, which is a stark difference from some of those larger facilities that you sometimes hear about.
Oh, absolutely. That smaller, more intimate setting makes a world of difference because it allows for that really personalized care and attention, which can be, so crucial for someone who, just needs a helping hand with those daily tasks. And what's even better, the article mentions that they often help out with things like meals, transportation, even organizing social outings.
That's what I'm talking about, painting that picture, right? Because it goes beyond just having a roof over your head. It's about having those opportunities to stay active, to stay engaged, and to really feel like you're part of a community.
Wow.
Now, switching gears just a bit here, the article also talks about supported housing. And in particular, for those individuals dealing with mental health needs, which I thought was fantastic because it addresses a whole other layer of the support that is so, so critical.
Oh, I totally agree. It's recognizing that for some, a safe and stable living situation, it's not the be all and end all, right? It's not enough on its own. They might need those additional resources, that support system to really manage their mental health effectively. And that's precisely where these programs, they step in to fill that gap.
And the way they describe it, it sounds incredibly tailored to the individual. We're talking counseling services, medication management, all those things that can make a world of difference.
Yep. It's about empowering folks,
Yeah.
right? Giving them the tools and resources they need, not just to get by, but to really thrive in their homes and in their lives. Now, speaking of finding that perfect fit, let's shift gears to affordable rental communities. This section was particularly interesting, especially the part about special needs units.
Yes. And what I really appreciated was how the article didn't just mention them, in passing.
Huh.
It gave a real-world example using Orange County, which made it so much more tangible.
Exactly. And that's something I found really refreshing about this article. It really brings these concepts down to earth, shows you how they actually work in practice. So in the case of Orange County, for example, someone with a developmental disability, they'd need a referral from their regional center to be eligible for those special needs units.
And, even if you're not in Orange County, that example shows you that these systems, they're out there. It might take a little digging to figure out what's available in your specific area, but hey, that's where those organizations we talked about earlier, they come in.
Exactly. Your special needs housing detectives, that's what they are. But, we've talked a lot about the different housing types out there, but there's this whole other elephant in the room, right? The financial side of things. Ready to tackle that one?
Oh, we're not shying away from the money talk.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, that's a major concern for so many families.
Okay.
So let's dig in. All right, so we've spent this deep dive really digging into the ins and outs of special needs housing. We've talked about, finding that perfect fit, making sure the right support systems are in place. But let's be real for a second. The money question, it always rears its head, right? I mean, how can families actually make these options work financially?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. And thankfully, this article, it doesn't shy away from that at all, especially when it comes to the whole thing about special needs trusts. I'll admit, S&Ts always kind of sounded intimidating to me, but the way they explain it in this article, it just clicks.
I'm with you on that. Just the name itself, Like, are we about to have a law school lecture here? But what's so incredible about S&Ts is they can actually pave the way for someone with disabilities to become a homeowner. And they do it without putting those crucial government benefits, the ones a lot of people rely on, at risk.
That's huge, because I bet that's a major, major concern for a lot of families.
Yeah.
You want to set your loved one up for success, obviously, but not if it means losing that safety net of support.
It's a delicate balance, for sure. And yeah, S&Ts, they can really be a game changer in that sense. And, it's not just about owning a home outright. This article does a great job of explaining how an S&T can be used in a bunch of different ways, managing rentals, covering those home modifications we talked about earlier, even chipping away at the cost of those in-home care services. It's really about taking that long-term view and getting that peace of mind.
It's like a safety net, but with legal strings attached, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what I appreciate? The article doesn't just stop at S&Ts. It touches on a bunch of other senior housing options too, which I think is a good reminder that there are many paths you can take.
Yes, love that about the article because it's so easy to get tunnel vision, especially when you're researching something as important as this. And you're right, there are other options out there. Government-subsidized housing, for instance, can be an absolute lifeline for so many people, but there's often a catch.
The dreaded waiting list.
Yeah. Which is why this article's emphasis on early research, it can't be stressed enough.
Absolutely. Because the last thing you want is to finally find that perfect place and then be stuck waiting who knows how long to actually get in.
Exactly. Got to be proactive.
And speaking of keeping things real, I really appreciate how the article doesn't try to sugarcoat things for folks who are dealing with limited incomes, because that's a reality for so many people.
It's about being honest about the challenges, right? And affordability is a big one for a lot of folks. But even there, the article offers a glimmer of hope. It talks about how some apartments and condos are specifically designed for seniors with limited incomes, and in these places, the rent is usually capped at 30% of their income. Plus, a lot of these communities, they already have all those accessibility features built in, which is fantastic.
It's like they've really thought of everything.
They really have.
Okay, so we've tackled the financial side of things, but what about those day-to-day support systems? The stuff that really impacts someone's quality of life. What did the article have to say about all of that?
This is the part that always warms my heart a little because at the end of the day, it's not just about bricks and mortar. It's about that support system that truly makes a place feel like home. And one thing that really stood out to me was the emphasis on providing very specific in-home care services.
Yes. Instead of that vague, oh, we'll help you out, it's like, here's exactly what that help looks like.
Right. It gets into the nitty-gritty,
Yeah.
talking about things like housekeeping, helping out with meal prep, even managing medications. And when you really think about it, imagine the difference that can make for someone who struggles with those everyday tasks. It's about giving them the tools to maintain their independence for as long as possible.
And I don't know if you felt the same way, but I was really struck by how they talked about transportation, too.
Yeah.
It's more than just a way to get from point A to point B. It's like this lifeline to the outside world.
100%. It's about staying connected, right, to the community, to friends, to activities that bring joy. And again, they didn't just stop at saying, oh, yeah, we offer transportation. They actually mentioned things like coordinated trips and tours, which I think is just brilliant.
It's those little touches that can make all the difference in the world. Now, last but certainly not least, we have to talk about accessibility modifications. Because I feel like this gets overlooked sometimes. It doesn't matter how amazing a place is if it's not physically accessible. And thankfully, this article, it goes above and beyond.
Oh, this section was fantastic. Like you said, we all think of ramps, right, which are crucial, obviously. But they went deeper, talking about grab bars, lowering countertops, even integrating things like smart home technology. It's incredible how much you can tailor a living space to meet someone's needs these days.
And it all ties back to this idea of removing those barriers so that everyone can thrive in their environment no matter what.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, I think it's the perfect way to wrap up this deep dive.
I agree.
We've covered so much ground here today, from understanding all those different types of housing, to navigating the often confusing world of finances, to exploring all those support systems that can make a world of difference. It's a lot to take in. But remember, knowledge is power. So for all of you listening out there, we hope that this deep dive has given you the tools to ask the right questions, to explore those options out there, and ultimately find that perfect special needs housing solution for yourself or for your loved one.
And remember, now this isn't a journey you have to take alone. There are amazing resources out there, incredible support systems just waiting to help you every step of the way. So don't hesitate to reach out. Find those people, those organizations that resonate with you. They're out there.
Beautifully said. Until next time, everyone, keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep advocating for those who need our support.